Good evening, folks. Welcome back to another Monday night live stream. I hope everybody is well. I hope you've all had a fantastic Easter weekend. I hope you've been lucky enough to have a few days off work as well over the Easter weekend. Hopefully Good Friday and today, Easter Monday as well. I hope you haven't eaten too many chocolate eggs as well. So, hello and happy Easter to every single one of you. Let's have a look and see who we've got in the chat tonight. I've got a feeling tonight might be a bit of a lively one, and we'll come on to the reason why that is. So, nice and early, we had Darth Vegeta. Nice to see you. We had Ed Hanley as well, who's got his D&D tonight, so he's just going to catch this on the replay. Hello, Ed, if you're watching this back. We've got Jabberwocky as well. Hello to you. Marcus, the Super Pumpkin Man. We've got Dominic. I'm not even going to try and pronounce your surname and try and butcher it. Prisbiliski. Is that right? Sorry, mate. He says, do we include scalpers in people that buy to split the box as well or not? I'll start my kind of topic, mate, about explaining what I think. It might not be what you think, it might not be what others think, but this is the point I'm coming from. So I'll include that when I start, mate. Hello, Lord Maiden. Hello, how you doing, mate? Hello, Peter Kuhlman as well. Ortega as well. Hello in the rerun to you as well, Ortega. Chimp205, nice to see you. And some new faces in as well. Hello to you. Hello, Blizzards as well. Steve Evans, good evening to you, sir. Christian Reeves, nice to see you, my friend. John Ashley Smith says, good afternoon from a gloomy South Ontario. Talking of weather, mate, we had like lovely weather back end of last week, and then we had some snow overnight. And I've been grafting away today. I've been doing a lot of work outside and in the garage and stuff. And I might touch on why I've been doing some work in the garage later. But I was just finishing up about 6:30. My wife says, do you want to dive in the shower? I'm just going to put the tea out. And just as I was finishing up, it started to snow again. I can't believe how we've gone from like sunshine this morning to snow tonight. We've got Taliesin in. Hello to you as well. Scott Latham's in. Yoakum's in as well. Hello to you, fellas. We've got Corvus Corax says, hello, evening, hello. Good evening, hello, I am here. Nice to see you. We've got Phil Cunningham in Germany as well. Nice to see you, mate. Derek Hodge, jumping off my screen there, saying hello from Scotland. He's painting some Rogue Trader Imperial Army figures from 1988. And he's going to use them in Stargrave. I don't even think I know what those figures look like, mate. Christopher Warden, good afternoon to you, mate. Peter Mack, hello, fella, how's you? Bobby Clark said he's been airbrushing with Pro Acryl paints. They're ace. I've heard some good things about those, mate. Colin Wakeland, evening to you, sir. Stu's in as well. Hello, Stu. Hello to Craig Notman. We got Dead Hands in. Says, good evening, dude, and the chat. Good morning as well to VJ. Nice to see you, mate. Nice to see you working hard this weekend as well. We got some guy. He says, first time on your live stream. Nice to see you, mate. Thank you very much for joining us. We got the Spider Lord in as well. Peter Max says, I thought I'd turn up. I love a good row. I don't think this is going to be much of a row, I think. So for those that haven't seen tonight's topic, I've kind of asked the question, is scalping or are scalpers really causing a problem? And specifically, I'm talking about Cursed City. Obviously, Warhammer Quest Cursed City went up for pre-order this weekend. It sold out. And I've read lots over the weekend and today about people getting very, very angry about scalpers. And I kind of want to pose the question. I'm not a sort of pro scalper. I don't kind of like sort of buy things to sell myself. It's not like I'm kind of trying to defend anybody. I just want to kind of play devil's advocate a little bit, and I want to kind of weigh up some other ways of thinking that you may not have considered. So we're going to talk about that tonight. Is scalping really the issue that everybody says it is? And as soon as I put it up on kind of Facebook, I put it up on Twitter and stuff, I got a raft of replies saying, yes, it's a problem, it's disgraceful, it's blah, blah, blah. But I don't think people really know what I'm going to talk about. I already had 2 thumbs down before the video started. I don't think people really know what I'm going to talk about. So please bear that in mind when I do start. Kind of hear me out, listen to what I'm going to say, and then we can discuss it, then we can chat about it. But I think I might kind of just give you a slightly different perspective that might just make you think a little bit differently. It might make you reconsider some of the thoughts that you have about scalping and about, not necessarily about scalping itself, that you can have the opinion whatever you want on that, but about how much of a problem is it. Tony Howell says, hello my lovelies, nice to see you. Peter Nicholas says, I'm not a scalper, but if anyone wants a Cursed City for 5 times RRP. Current Kick, nice to see some new faces in. Hello. Wayne Haywood says hi from West Midlands. He's painting his Wild West Exorcist posse. Thanks in no small part to Andy. I'm glad to see you painting some stuff, mate. I've got a Lost World Exodus posse there to paint up, mate. I think that's where I might be getting the brush to on Wednesday. We've got Silver MKI. Says, long time no live stream. Too much baby care filling my time. I've had many years of that in the past, mate. Luckily, my little one's getting a little bit older now and doesn't take too much kind of nighttime care. So yes, I know exactly what you mean. Tasty Brain Drains in as well, or he wasn't until he jumped off the top of my screen. Simon Tuckley says, hi, long time, I know, sorry. Don't have to apologise, mate. It's always nice to have some faces in. We've got Bloggy in as well, saying, hope everyone had a good weekend. Marco, hello to you, mate, as well, finishing off his course-based stuff. We've got Zeblik, says, hello from Utah in the USA. Hello, Zeblik. Tasty Brain Drains says, turns out I was able to make the stream after all. Al Mullen says, evening guys from the Lake District, classic British weather. Can't whack it, mate, can you? Warwick Dark Edge, hello. He says, until all the limited and hard to get items from GW, I didn't mind if people wanted half a box to eBay or a whole one. But now when those wanting a whole box can't get it, that's rough on the players. I'm going to touch on that as well, mate, because there's something probably quite controversial that I'm going to say, and I'm not suggesting that I agree with it, but it is another way to look at it. Phony72 said, evening all, first time watching live while I paint some Infinity models. Nice, mate. What are you painting? Which Infinity models have you got on the table? Steve A, hello, says, hope you feel better. I'm feeling way better, mate, today. Last Monday, I think, was the first time I'd really started to feel a bit healthier again. And here we are a week later. I feel great. I've been grafting all day in the garage and stuff. I'm completely healed now, mate. Thank you very much. He says, I'm looking forward to know what's in the secret envelope. Yeah, me. I'm looking forward to getting my hands on it to find out myself, mate. Tony says, typical weather is messing with his Wi-Fi. Yeah, fingers crossed we don't get that at this end. Jim Zorn says, greetings, Andy. Hope you're doing well. I'm doing very well, thank you. VJ says, this will be a fun stream to find where everyone sits on ethics versus dollars spectrum. It's interesting because I do touch on some stuff. I've obviously made notes. I always make notes. I do touch on some stuff which are kind of morally a little bit uncomfortable, I would say. And I'll explain why that is when I come to them. But yeah, there's a lot of it. Like you could take a purely capitalist view of this, or you can take a very kind of socialist view, I suppose. Marcus is saying, sad question, did anyone not get their copy of Curse City? I'm sure plenty of there are some people didn't get it. It did sell out, and there's more coming, so people can wait for it. But there was an issue with a supplier in the UK where they basically took more orders because of a computer glitch. They took more orders and confirmed orders than they had stock for because of a computer glitch, and then they emailed people back about like 1-2 o'clock in the afternoon to say, oh, you haven't got a copy, like, which is or it happened to me with Indomitus, and I was really pissed off with it because I thought if I'd known I'd missed out in the morning, there was opportunities to buy it from elsewhere. So I do feel for those people that happened to, because it happened to me with Indomitus, so you have my full kind of sympathy on that. But I'll talk about other folks that missed out later on. Those ones I have complete sympathy for. I think it's just, it stinks when it's a computer glitch, it screws it up, and you think you've got it. You've got the email that confirms it, and by the time you found out you haven't got it, everywhere else is sold out. That's when it's a bit of an issue. Current Kicks is Miniature Market in the US still has the pre-order up. I got mine this morning. Nice one. The VG says, can't wait for the rabid free market libertarians to out themselves. Spiderlaw says, I don't like scalpers, but I think it's just part of life at this point. GW made it one per person, not sure what more they can do. There is an element of that, and I won't kind of spoil my topic, start a chat with that, but yeah, there is an element of that as well, mate. Where was that? Well, that jumped ahead there as well. I've got to go back and try and catch up and see where we were up to there. Zeblik said he may have 2 copies, one online and one from friendly local gaming store. I've seen a few people with 2 copies, to be fair. Tasty Brain Drain said I didn't get a copy, but then I wasn't interested in getting one. That's a different kettle of fish, isn't it? Tim Kelly, nice to see you, mate. Animus has said he's painting some dwarfs for Saga Age of Magic. Busey's in as well. He says the scalpers have their plus points, so if you really need to pay 90 quid for a metal key if you missed out on, there are some, I wouldn't say benefits to scalpers, but I'll mention that when I come to talking about the topic and stuff. Vijay saying he's probably missed his first every other Sunday in over 18 months. That's what happens when you have to work again, mate. ER910, nice to see you. He says he's painting some minis for Frostgrave. Scott saying, I'm interested to see where this goes. I've got notes and notes and notes and loads of stuff I want to talk about. But it'll be interesting to see. I think I've got some points that I think maybe other people might not have considered, which is really, I'll tell you my main point kind of later on about why this is even a topic tonight, because I've seen some people getting really angry about this. And I think it's kind of misplaced, some of it, and I think that's then spilled over into people being angry at YouTubers who got it sent from Games Workshop, as if these YouTubers have now stolen the copies from these people as well. And there's just this kind of this latent frustration that seems to be bubbling over, and I want to just try and put a slightly different spin on it. Gary Hollandale said it's about supply and demand. It's the same as trying to get copies of old games like the original Warhammer Quest. There is an element of that, but I think it's a slightly different when it is a current product or a new product. People feel a bit differently about it. It's different saying, there's this game I want that came out 20 years ago and now I decide I want it. I'm going to have to pay over the odds for it. I think people feel differently about that as something has appreciated in value versus it only came out yesterday and I already can't get it. I think there's a kind of a subtle difference on that one. John says, with that Lost World Exodus, I'll finally have some use for dinosaur kits I was given decades ago. Yeah, I've got a few dinosaur kits as well that I can mix in there as well. I think technically they're not dinosaurs in the Lost World, for reasons basically, but I'll touch on that when I start talking about the myth, the lore and stuff later on, another time. Mortis is saying, last time I was talking about scalping is considered mostly illegal here in the States. It's different in the UK because it is illegal to fix the price of something in the UK. So when Games Workshop, for example, because we're talking about Curse City, when Games Workshop sell a retailer a copy, or they sell a copy to a customer, they can sell let's just say it's the retail price is £100. GW will sell it to a retailer, an independent retailer, for less than that. Let's say £50, just to keep round numbers. That retailer can sell that copy for any price they want. The recommended retail price is a suggested retail price. It is recommended. It is not a fixed price. They can sell it for less than that if they want. They can sell it for more than that if they want. And that is very much a UK thing. I know it's not the same all over the world, but essentially it's to stop price fixing in markets. It's to stop companies basically forcing sort of smaller companies not being able to discount their product, stopping other people selling above prices, fixing that. And price fixing is what's classed as illegal in the UK, to be fair. Andy said the Smiths are in from Shez Vegas. Nice to see you and the family, mate. Mark Bercloth, good evening. Gary says, Andy, did you get all the GW Steam codes? Will you stream any of the games? I didn't even buy the White Dwarf, mate, to be honest. I had an annual subscription to White Dwarf, and it ran out the month before all those Steam codes came out. When I saw them, mate, there was a couple of games that I already own, which were probably the only ones I was interested in. So things like Vermintide 2 and Space Marine and stuff, Total War Warhammer I already own. So I kind of already owned the ones I was probably interested in. I already own Warhammer Underworlds, for example. So yeah, I've never really streamed any video games on this channel. I don't know whether it crosses over quite so well, but potentially, mate, potentially. Glyn Seymour, hello, mate, nice to see you. Said didn't stress over Curse City run, but looking forward to the second run. Phony's just doing some models from the Code 1 Colstrom set. I loved painting them, mate. Really did. He says, a long time since I worked with metal, though. Yeah, I remember when I was building them, mate. It was a bit of a pain in the backside. I couldn't get them to stick together. Tony Howell says, scalping isn't restricted to the mini hobby. It's a way of life for music concert. Yeah, do you know what it is, mate? I've kind of touched on that as well when I come to my main topic. It's not... The way people get up in arms about it, it's like it only happens with Games Workshop products, and that's just not the case. Peter says, how did you get 2 thumbs down before you even started state your case? People feel really strongly about scalpers, and I think they took the inference that I was going to defend scalpers tonight, and that's not really my position. Would I rather there was no scalpers? Absolutely, I would. I'm not going to be defending it, but I want to have a look at it from a different perspective. Peter says, ethics are not involved. You don't need a box of plastic to survive. I don't disagree with that, mate, to be fair. Silver MKI says, GW limiting supply drives desire for the market and scalpers. I'm not sure they are limiting supply, really, and we'll come on to that stuff in a bit. But I think people find it easy to blame GW for this, saying that they're causing all these issues and they could just make more. We'll come on to why that's not as easy as it sounds. Paul says, feels like we've been here before. Is scalping a problem? In the grand scheme of things, no, not really. Is it moral? No, absolutely not. We have touched on scalping before, but I think there's more to it that I want to kind of talk about. Some guy was there and then it disappeared. Let me go back and find it. Chat's busy tonight. It says, I can't wait, but I did get a copy of the limited book. Looking forward to smashing through that. Paul saying we only justify scalping because it's luxury goods. We wouldn't tolerate it on essential items. Yeah, we wouldn't tolerate it on essential items, mate. And it only happens, really, it only happens on luxury goods because they have a inherent value. Like essential items, by their sheer nature of the fact that they're essential, is they're constantly replenished. So like bottles of milk, loaves of bread, sort of water, sort of power. Like we certainly if you're living in the Western world or you're living in kind of like a first world country, essential stuff by its very nature would never be scalped because it is just constantly kind of replenished. So there'd be no need to pay over the odds for it. Apart from if you look at the sort of the pandemic last year when everybody was trying to stockpile toilet rolls and things, that just shows you exactly what can happen when that kind of thing gets out of hand. Just scrolling down there. Dave Mackay, nice to see you, fella. Peter saying the thing is, it's not a one-off run. Yeah, it's not a one-off run. That's another thing I kind of want to touch on as well. This will be coming back. You might have to wait a little bit, but there's more coming. Peter saying, honestly, if it runs out while still pre-ordering, then why do a pre-order? The reason for that, mate, is because there is only so many that GW have made. They're not just making sort of warehouses and warehouses and warehouses full of the stuff. They're going to basically make a load of them, see how it goes, and then decide based upon that how many more they need to make. So it's not like they're not going to make sort of like 20 million copies of it and just to make sure everybody gets one. That's not how production works for any product. Dead Hand says, as long as there are people that will pay the scalper's price, there will be scalpers. Whose fault is it in the end? Rob Funnelson, what's good, everyone? Nice to see you, mate. Adam Edgar says, what's all listening? Nice to see you, fella. Mountain Gremlin Games says, hello, Monday again. It is Monday again, mate. Nice to see you. Kelly Cordell says, I think huge scalper issues with Xbox Series X, PS5, GT 3070 video cards has really raised the dislike for scalpers overall. I do think, or how do I put this? I don't think COVID issues have helped with this kind of stuff. I'm not saying that that's the case for the Games Workshop stuff for Curse City, but I think things like the 3070s, PlayStation 5s and things like that, it certainly hasn't helped things, I would agree. James Hanna, good evening to you, James. Busey saying, I can't understand how these scalpers managed to get so many copies. I'll come on to that as well, mate. I'll come on to that. Got Disco Dolly says, if any product sells out in seconds on day of release, why do we need YouTubers promoting a product? I do not disagree with that, if I'm perfectly honest. I completely agree. I'm still not sure why Games Workshop send product to people to preview it and to review it and then stop them releasing those videos until pre-orders go up. I agree with that. I've got no idea why they even bother doing that. It doesn't build any hype at that point. It's too late. If they let them release a day before or a week before, I can understand the benefit in it, but there's absolutely no real kind of, like, there's no point promoting something when you can't buy it at that point. I do agree with that. Good evening, Krabby. We've got Mr. M. Birult, I think that is, says, I think percentage of the supply purchased by scalpers is grossly overestimated. We'll come on to that, mate. Al Mullen says, I got mine, I'd be gutted if I didn't. Richard Parker says, I can't wait to add Curse City to my pile of shame. Right, I'm going to, the chat's just going to keep going, I think, if I don't dive in and make a start. So, Mickey Edmonds, hello to you as well. Simon Tuckley, I think we've got All Fun and Games. Says maybe they send out free stuff to YouTubers just because it's like positive press. It gets positive press, mate, but the problem is it doesn't benefit anybody other than the YouTuber getting a free copy. I don't get anything from Games Workshop, so it's not like I'm saying that to kind of defend anything. I just don't see the point in it. There are some YouTubers who do very, very good video work. Ash Barker, for example, did a playthrough. Hellstorm Wargaming did a playthrough on Sunday night. People put time and effort into it. But it doesn't really help as a business to promote a product. It doesn't really help if people can't buy it by the time people are seeing that information. It's kind of stupid, really. Right, I'm going to dive in and I'm going to start talking about the main topic. So I'll get all my bits and notes up and stuff like that. So tonight I'm asking the question: is scalping really a problem? And specifically, I'm talking about it in relation to Warhammer Quest Cursed City, which just came out this weekend, because I have seen a lot of negativity online saying, screw the scalpers, all the scalpers have got all this stuff, they're whacking the prices up, I didn't get one, and that general type of stuff. But it seems worse for this release. I don't know if it's because people are more hyped for it. I don't know if people think it was more limited, but the negativity around this seems a lot worse for this online at the minute. So I guess I should really start with this sort of defining what I see a scalper as, because I think everybody has maybe some slightly different opinions. So at least I'm kind of laying it out what my opinion is. So a scalper is anybody who buys a product, in this instance Cursed City. They buy a product with the sole intention of selling it for profit, because they know it's going to be in high demand, they know it's going to be in short supply, so they buy it with the sheer intention to sell it for a profit. Now that might mean they basically buy the box for £100 and then they sell it for £200 on eBay or something. It might mean that they buy the box for £125. They might pay a full retail price, but then they split down the components and sell the model separately, and sell this group of models separately, sell this model separately, sell the rules and the cardboard, and sell all of that separately, and make more than they spent by breaking things down separately. I don't think we can distinguish, or we can separate people who sell the box at a high price versus people who split the box and sell it out separately at a high price. Either way, they are, and I say this kind of in inverted commas, they are taking the game away from somebody who legitimately just wanted to buy it to play the game. So I don't think we can kind of separate that kind of stuff. So that is basically the what I would consider to be a scalper at the moment. It's happening with things like PlayStation 5 at the minute, with the new Xbox, that kind of stuff. It's not just limited to Games Workshop stuff, but it feels at the minute there is a lot of negativity about the Games Workshop stuff. So I guess I'm going to play devil's advocate here. This is not necessarily kind of like, I'm not pro scalper. I've never bought anything to kind of sell at a profit type stuff in that regard. So I'm not defending scalpers, if you like. But I guess there's two sides you can look at it. You can look at it from a very it's a horrible negative thing and say that it's disgusting. They are stealing product away from people who are willing to pay kind of list price for it. They're taking it away from them, and they are depriving gamers in this case from getting their hands on Cursed City. You can see it from the complete opposite flip side and say these people are entrepreneurs. They are just doing exactly the same thing that any retail store does. They buy something at one price, and because there is a need for it, there's a desire for it from other people, they put the price up and they sell it for a higher price and make a profit. And the reason they can do that is because there are people willing to pay the higher price. You could say that the market sets the price, that if no one was willing to pay the higher price, scalpers wouldn't exist. So you can kind of see it from two sides. You can decide which side you want to sit on that fence, but there is two sides to everything, as there always is. So one thing I'm going to talk about now, which is kind of morally a little bit sort of uncomfortable, is that technically scalpers are not taking the games away from gamers. What they are doing is they are taking the game away from somebody that was going to pay list price, and they are replacing that person with somebody who is willing to pay more money because they really want the game. So in real terms, gamers still get their hands on all of the games. The people that want the product still get their hands on it. it's just morally very uncomfortable that it starts to come about who's got the most money, who can afford to pay the higher price, who thinks the value of the product is worth the higher price, because they didn't take the time to kind of be ready on launch day to pick it up themselves, because they just thought, you know what it is, I've got more money than I know what to do with. I'm not bothered about getting caught up in that rush. I'm not willing to wait until it gets reprinted. To me, it is worth the extra money to pay one of the scalpers to have it now. And that's what feeds scalpers. However, if you take kind of like the moral kind of high, if you take the moral high ground out of it about people paying over the odds for it, gamers are still getting their hands on the games. So technically, gamers are not missing out. It's just some gamers miss out, other gamers get their hands on it. But it is it becomes morally uncomfortable at some point. Now the other side of it is everyone has an equal opportunity to get their hands on this game. So Games Workshop has been hyping this up for weeks. They have been telling everybody, if get ready, 10 o'clock, pre-orders go live. You can pre-order it from your friendly local gaming store. You can pre-order it from our website online. Everybody had the opportunity to be there at 10 o'clock or whatever time it was in your particular region. Everybody had that opportunity. Now, you might have been at work. You might have slept in. You might have been looking after the kids and forgot about it. You might have decided you didn't really want it and then changed your mind a bit later in the day. However, everybody has equal opportunity. Be that you or be that the scalpers. Everybody has the opportunity to do it. Games Workshop did pretty much all they could have done by saying it is one per person. So what they've stopped doing is, I think in the past they said like 5 copies of this or 3 copies of that. They kind of stopped what they said. They've stopped what they've done in the past and said 1 copy per person. And they've also said this is coming back. It's being reprinted. If you miss out, you'll have to wait a few weeks or maybe a month or so. You wait a little bit longer and there'll be another wave along as quickly as we can, kind of thing. So it's not like they are saying this is one run and done. So I think in this case, it's a little bit different to those kind of like those one-off boxes and stuff. And again, I think people need to kind of almost rein in some of their anger about this kind of stuff. Scalpers are not stealing from your friendly local gaming stores. So for instance, it's not like there is less to go around in friendly local gaming stores because scalpers have grabbed them all already. Scalpers are not stealing them from sort of GW so that GW can't give them to friendly local gaming stores. Gaming stores get their allocation confirmed a few days before pre-orders go live. So it doesn't matter how many scalpers pick this game up, the local gaming stores were always getting the allocation that they were getting. Because I've seen that levied at some people saying, my store only got 5 copies, it's because all the scalpers get it. That's got nothing to do with it. Your store was getting 5 copies, whether scalpers bought all of GW's stocks or they only bought 1. Your store was still getting 5 copies. Now, the other side of it is when it actually comes. I've just got some notes here that I want to kind of show something. When it actually comes to how many GW made, how many GW sold, versus how many scalpers get their hands on this kind of stuff. Let's take the UK as an example because I'm more familiar with the UK market. Now, those kind of keys to Ulthuncon that were available as a pre-order bonus, there was about 5,000 of those keys. I can't remember exactly how many it was, 5,300 or something like that. But for the first 5,300 people, let's say, or the first 5,000 people that ordered the game, they would get that key free as like a pre-order bonus. However, once those keys ran out, there were still other copies of Cursed City available, but you didn't get that key. But we can use that as a benchmark to say, how many copies do we think GW sold themselves on their website? Because those 5,000 keys lasted about 10 minutes and then they were gone. So we can assume by that they sold 5,000 copies in the first 10 minutes. However, Games Workshop's website still had Cursed City copies available for about another 80 minutes. You could pre-order that for about 90 minutes from 10 o'clock to about 11:30. Games Workshop's website in the UK still had copies of Curse City available. We were sitting chatting with all of the Patreons in our Discord chat on Saturday. We were saying, it's still available, it's still available. I can't believe it hasn't sold out yet. We were chatting that through, so I can say, because we were sitting there chatting and clicking the buttons, it was about 90 minutes before it sold out on Games Workshop's website. So if we say they sold 5,000 copies in 10 minutes and it still had another 80 minutes of sales, let's be really conservative and let's say they sold 30,000 copies from their website. Let's just say they only sold 30,000 copies. I think they sold more than that, but let's say they sold 30,000 copies. On top of that, friendly local gaming stores, they were selling them. So I purchased mine from Goblin Gaming. They didn't seem to have very many available, but I bought mine with the hardback book. I was straight on there at 10 o'clock. The order went straight through. My email says 1 minute past 10 was when it was confirmed. Then the book sold out quite quickly, and then they still had a few copies of the game available as well, and then they sold out as well. But there was other game shops that I saw. There was things like Mighty Lancer Games still had 50 copies left by about 10:15, and we were kind of like sort of sending people over there and have a look at this. Wayland Games still had copies available much later as well. Element Games seemed to have a lot of copies available before they sold out as well. But even if we err on the side of caution, let's just say there was only 1,000 copies in the UK between all of the different retail stores. I think personally there was much more than that, but let's be conservative for the sake of these numbers. So let's say in total there was 31,000 copies sold on Saturday morning. How many of those all went out to scalpers? So what I've done to try and have a little look is I have had a look on eBay today, and I'm gonna share this with you. So here's eBay. If I put in Cursed City and I click search, and then it's sort of set up for the UK, and if I put it by highest price to lowest price, I've gone through this list, and yes, there's some stupid prices on here. Who's going to pay £1,000 for that book? Who's going to pay £300 for a copy of Cursed City? It's stupid. But I've gone through and I've counted up how many full box sets of Cursed City. I haven't included all the ones that's broken down because I can't tell how many of them is one person sort of broken down a box, sort of that kind of thing. But I've gone through, and do you know how many copies are available on eBay? There are 32 copies. 32 copies available, being sold as full boxes. And then there's all the other ones that's been split down and stuff. So if we take that in mind, right, let's say there's not even 100 copies, 100 full copies on eBay. Let's err on the side of caution again, and let's say that actually some people haven't had a chance to list them yet. Some people have got 2 copies, and they might be waiting until one arrives, and then they're going to try and sell the second one. Let's say there's 200 copies available. The thing is, 200 copies that have gone to scalpers, because let's be honest, they're not really selling anywhere else outside of eBay, I wouldn't imagine. 200 copies have gone to scalpers out of a really low estimate of 31,000 copies sold on Saturday is like 0.7% of all product that's sold on Saturday. Somebody mentioned in the chat that I think people overestimate just how much the impact of scalpers is. And this is really my main point about how much of a problem is it really. I think if people miss out, they instantly want to blame these kind of like hidden scalpers that are sitting with kind of like big computer banks, and they've kind of got all this fancy software and they're buying up thousands of copies of this thing. That's just not what's happening in this. It's not like they're buying up PS5s. It's not like they're buying up new Xboxes. They're not buying up kind of like limited edition Jordan trainers. Like, these are just copies of Cursed City. Yes, some people are buying this to sell it on, but the problem is minuscule in comparison. I mean, let's just say that, for example, let's say there was 40,000 copies sold. And let's say that there is only 100 copies on eBay. Like I said, I counted 32 copies for sale. Let's say there really is only 100, and that actually there was maybe like a few more kind of sales dotted about through the day. 40,000 copies with 100 copies sold by scalpers is 1/4%. Like 1/4%. There was probably 100 copies went out to YouTubers. Like, this is a tiny, and this is just in one country. This is just in the UK I'm comparing. Not to mention we start sort of spreading out into Europe and around the world and into the US and stuff, and Australia. This game did not sell out in like 5 minutes. It didn't sell out in 10 minutes. it was still available for 90 minutes, for you to put your pre-order in. So unfortunately, I'm going to be a little bit harsh here. If somebody missed out, and it wasn't because of the stuff I talked about before, where there was computer errors and people thought they had the order and then the order was cancelled. If somebody missed out, there's one of a few things happened here. One is you weren't ready at 10 o'clock. I was talking about this last week when I was saying everything you need to know before you pre-order. I said be there at 10 o'clock, sort of fill in all your details in advance, make sure you've saved your credit card details, make sure you've got an account set up, make sure you've signed into your Warhammer account, speak to your friendly local gaming store. If you really wanted this game and you were ready at 10 o'clock, you'd have got a pre-order. You would have got a pre-order. If there's people in the chat tonight saying that people have been saying it's sold out in 5 minutes, but I got mine like an hour later on. What might have happened is that if you had your basket on the Games Workshop website and you had a key in the basket and you had the game in the basket, or you had the book in the basket and you had the game in the basket, if the book or the key wasn't available, it wouldn't let you purchase it. And I think some people were seeing that and they were thinking, oh, it's sold out, I've missed out kind of thing. If you took the key out, if you took the book out, you could still buy that game for 90 minutes. So I think, unfortunately, if you missed out, some people were saying, I got the email from Games Workshop, it didn't come out until about 10 past 10, and when I clicked on the email, it was already sold out. One, if you really wanted it, why were you waiting for an email to tell you about it? Two, if it wasn't sold out 10 minutes afterwards, it might have been at a friendly local gaming store, but it certainly wasn't on the Games Workshop website. The other side of it is they're making more. So scalpers haven't gone overboard on this one because people are going to be able to pick it up in the next few weeks. So I think this one is, if I'm being perfectly honest, this one is getting blown completely out of proportion. Scalpers are not buying up all the copies of this and forcing the price up. We've already shown that I said there's about 32 copies on eBay. That's not a lot compared to the amount that was sold. And it's coming back. It's coming back in a few weeks. I think that actually the reality of this is that it's potentially GW's one of their better launches for a new product, if I'm perfectly honest. Like, it doesn't matter if you're buying concert tickets, if you're buying Super Bowl tickets, if you're buying sort of fancy trainers, if you're buying Supreme clothes, you're buying handbags, watches, games consoles, you're buying art, you're buying fancy cars, anything that is kind of desirable and is a luxury item and it has a limited amount of stuff will always have these kind of like scalpers and stuff. But it's just not as big an issue as people think it is when it comes to kind of to Cursed City stuff or to Games Workshop products. GW isn't really the issue here. Like, people are saying, well, why didn't they just make more? Why didn't they make enough for everybody? I've done a video on my channel about the kind of like the secret behind these boxed games and why they're in short supply. And I'll give you the kind of like the really quick version of it here. There is one is that they make the product sort of 12 months in advance or 6 months in advance. So they are guessing into the future about how many they need to make before the hype has even come out, before anybody even knows the game is going to be a thing. And the other thing is because they are absolutely full at the moment. They're playing catch up after the COVID shutdown. They shut down for a period of time. Like, they can't just work faster to make up that backlog because they're already flat out, that their machines are at full capacity. And what they do is they have a production window where they say, right, we're going to make, let's say, 40,000 copies, because that's what we're being talking about. We're going to make 40,000 copies, and then we need to stop making that because we need to make the next product that we're going to sell. So what happens is that's why this comes in waves, because what they'll do is they might be making, I don't know, the new Necromunda box set that's coming out. That line might be making that now. And then what they're doing is they're trying to squeeze in a little bit more of the Cursed City stuff to refill the supply chain again. So it's not a case of just they should make more. It costs a lot of money to have stock just sitting in the warehouse that isn't selling. So what they do is they'll make a production run, and then they'll go and do something else, and then they'll revisit the production run as well based upon what they think the estimated demand is for people that kind of still want that product. So it's not as easy as you kind of make it out. Somebody's saying there, it'd be nice if GW was more of an honest actor here. It's not necessarily a case of being an honest actor in this one. It's saying we all know they make low runs of stuff they plan to sell separately. In this case, they're not doing that. They're not going to sell stuff in this box separately. This is a self-contained boxed game, and they will continue to sell this box game into the future, probably for the next couple of years. So GW aren't really to blame on this one. Scalpers, as I demonstrated, aren't really to blame on this one. I think, unfortunately, in this case, if somebody really wanted this and they didn't get one, they kind of have to look a little bit closer to home as to why they didn't get one. Why weren't they waiting at 10 o'clock with everybody else sort of clicking? As I said before, there are some people who got screwed over through computer systems, and I have complete sympathy for them. But if it's just somebody who decided, like, Sunday tea time, actually I've been thinking about it and now I'd quite fancy it, unfortunately, you were too late. You'll have to wait for the next wave. You weren't there at 10 o'clock with everybody else that kind of managed to secure one. And unfortunately, that might sound really harsh, but it is just life. If there are a lot of people who want something, then you have to put the effort in. If you're at work, try and get somebody else to do it for you. Try and get kind of like time to take your lunch break or something at 10 o'clock, whatever it is. If you really want it, try and find a way to do it. Speak to your local gaming store, that kind of stuff. But I think kind of getting angry at this sort of 0.25% to maybe 0.7% of people that are scalpers. Like, there's probably, you'd be lucky if there's 200 copies in the UK, for example, have gone to scalpers. Like, that's not, like, if you'd been there at any point in the first 90 minutes, you'd have got your hands on it. So it might be harsh, but I want you to think a little bit differently about scalping. Is it really the problem that you think it is? You might morally not agree with it, but is it really a huge problem that's impacting upon you not getting your games? Or maybe could you look a little bit closer to home and you just weren't there, you weren't ready for it at 10 o'clock? Is that the problem? I'd love to know what you think. Let me know down in the comments. So, folks, it might be harsh. People might be sort of taking that one thinking, no, that's a bit nasty. You can't really say that. That's honestly that's my gut feeling. I was there at 10 o'clock, like I told everybody else to be, and mine was in my basket, paid for, and my email was confirmed at 1 minute past 10. This was something I really, really wanted. I was making a point of being there to get it. I got the book that I wanted, and I got the game that I wanted. When it comes to kind of the limited edition books and the keys and all that kind of stuff, I maybe feel a little bit differently about it. But when it comes to the games themselves, 90 minutes is a huge window for a pre-order for Games Workshop stuff. It's never, ever, I've never known something that be as kind of hyped up and be as popular as Cursed City and still be around for 90 minutes. Right, I'm just going to dive in and read some of these comments now. Christian says, he's sharing out the t-shirts there. Thank you very much, mate. Andy Smith saying scalpers are not stealing anything, they're buying it. Yeah, this is exactly kind of what I'm saying, mate, is about, like, love or hate scalpers, right? Let's take that out of it. They still have to be online at 10 o'clock. They're ready at 10 o'clock with their credit card details ready to buy one. They still have to spend their money on it. They're still taking a chance, actually, that they might not be able to kind of sell it on for a profit. If they're buying it at full retail price, they might get stuck with it, to be fair. So they're taking a risk as well. They're not stealing it from you. They are buying a product as well. What they do with that product after that, I guess it's completely up to them, isn't it? Silver MKI is saying scalpers sell to those who can and will pay a premium for limited products. If the RRP was a scalper price, there'll be far fewer people who would fit the new market pool. I completely agree with you. Unfortunately, or fortunately, some people just have more money than us. Like, I, for example, would never pay over the odds for a board game. Like, I've never wanted something that much that I am willing to pay completely over the odds for it. If it was something that I've absolutely wanted my entire life, and it's the last one, if there was something that meant something to me, I might be willing to pay a bit more. For something like, if I want to go to a boxing match and there's no tickets left, I missed out, and I see a tickets online and maybe it's twice the price that the list price was, but to me it's still worth it because it's the whole experience and it's the event and it's something I really wanted to go to. Maybe I'd pay more money for it. But that's still a choice. That is still a choice. Everybody has the same opportunity. it's a bit different when it comes to certain things like concert tickets, when it comes to sort of like sporting events and PlayStation 5s and things like that, because people have wrote really complicated computer script that allows them to kind of to jump onto these sites and grab a lot of that stock. I don't see anybody doing that with Games Workshop games. It's just not worth the grief. And because Games Workshop then limited it to one per person, which a lot of these things don't when it comes to concert tickets and stuff, they don't limit it to one per person. Because they have limited it to one per person, it's not that easy to do that. They might grab one with this kind of computer script stuff, but they're not grabbing thousands of copies of the stuff. James says, I ordered it at 9:55 when it showed up on the GW website, as I saw it happen before the games went on at 10 o'clock. I wasn't on the game. I was on the Goblin Gaming website. I kept refreshing. It went to 10 o'clock. It didn't show up at the front, so I typed in Curse City. It showed me the book and the box game. I put in my basket. I'd already signed into my account. I'd saved my credit card details, so basically when I just clicked on the button, I picked it from a drop-down list and it populated it all, and then I pressed buy, and like I say, I got my confirmation email at 1 minute past 10. I was prepared. I'd made a point of being ready to get something that I really wanted. And I say it should be Cursed City. Cursed or Cursed. I like Cursed City better. Tim said, I can't see the big deal about the key. If I'd had one, I'd flog it. I wasn't bothered about the key, mate, to be honest. I mean, I think if I'm paying full list price, it would be nice to have one. But yet again, it's one of those things that because people think they're entitled to it, they don't read the small print, they don't read the bit that says there's limited amounts of them. They don't kind of like, sort of, some people didn't realise you had to put it in your basket as well. There's all those kind of things. But it's a bit of tat. Let's be honest. It's not really going to be worth anything. A lot of this Games Workshop limited stuff, it might be worth something to a collector, but generally they're just nice to have things, really. But if I had one, what would I do with it? It will go in a drawer. I'll never see the light of day again. Tony says, I don't know how many copies my friendly little gaming store, but they had 77 available when I looked, and they still had stocks for 2 hours. Yeah, exactly. Mikhail is saying that the sold out fundamentally means that aggregate demand for price is willing to handle higher than GW's initial price. Yeah, and I guess that's kind of the market demands that some people are willing to pay more for it. The other thing that also drives scalpers' mind, don't forget, and I forgot to mention this in the main chat, is if I buy this in the UK and I pay list price £125 for it, but then I offer that up on eBay to sell overseas, if I sell it for, say, £160, I'm still making a profit on it, but somebody overseas is actually getting it cheaper than if they'd bought it in their own region. So if I say I'm willing to ship to the US or I'm willing to ship to Australia, that's another reason why this kind of secondary market exists as well. That actually helps out people overseas. So there are two sides to that as well, because independent retailers are not allowed to ship overseas. But as a private kind of sale, if I buy it myself and I ship it to somebody overseas, I'm completely within my rights to do that. Let's have a little look. James Hanna says, Element Games sent a specific email to customers saying they had plenty of copies available. I think Element Games might have sold their allocation, but they might have had more, and they refreshed the website and there was more on there. Element Games definitely had a lot of copies to sell. They definitely had plenty. Because we were, like I say, when we were just sitting chatting about it on our Patreon Discord over the course of the morning, trying to make sure everybody got one and that kind of stuff. We were kind of sending each other, have you tried here? Have you tried there? These have still got stock. That's still in stock. And yeah, they just seem plenty of stock to go around. And like I say, it might sound really harsh, but unfortunately, if you missed out, and this is going to sound terrible, but what were you doing? What were you doing for that first hour and a half? Thomas says, yeah, got mine from my favourite online store. He had 190 copies, gone in 6 minutes. That's what I mean about kind of even just seeing like 1,000 copies going to friendly local gaming stores is really underestimating it. Like that's why I intentionally underestimated the numbers that I think were available to sell, and then I've intentionally overestimated the amount of copies that I think are selling in the second-hand market. And it is still like it's less than 1% of the total stock. I just don't think that scalpers as a market is as big as people think it is. Krabby saying Bay City Rollers. Yeah, randomly on eBay. I don't know why. The Bay City Rollers had something to do with the Cursed City, I think it was. VG says, as someone who's worked in entertainment for 20 plus years, I've dealt with people using the aggregate demand excuse for leeching off the work of others for a long time. Yeah, I know what you mean, mate. Marcus says, I sold and friend who wanted them the Iron Golems and Untamed Beasts from the original Warcry box for $50. He thought I was pulling his chain, but I was happy to pay and get 2 for the price of 1. Stu here's the Monk Turner says by 10:15 all the independents had sold out and the GW website had locked up. At 10:30 the GW website said out of stock. That's just not true, mate, honestly. There was loads of independents still had stock. Element Games was still in stock. Wayland Games had it for like 90 something pound. They still had it like over an hour later. What's the other one we were just talking about? Mighty Lancer Games still had 50 left in stock after 10:30 when we were all sharing and having a look around. There was loads of places still had it in stock. And the Games Workshop website did keep crashing. They had some issues with it and stuff, but it was still available until about 11:30. It was about 90 minutes it was still available. People might have been saying it was out of stock, but it wasn't out. It definitely was not out of stock after like 10:30. I saw it with my own eyes. I could put one in my basket. It was definitely not out of stock. Jez Hunt says Andy Bird is laying down the calm, rational view. I find it strange that I mean I know we've got locked down and people are getting a little bit like itchy and stuff, and people are wanting to kind of like. I think people are just getting angry about the slightest little things, and I'm just trying to put some kind of perspective on this. Is that don't get angry at scalpers for missing out because it is such a minuscule part of the market. That's not the reason you missed out. And don't really get angry at Games Workshop about it. They made tens of thousands of copies of this. And like I said before, it was still available for about 90 minutes across the internet. Somebody's just saying there that Miniature Market have still got some for available for sale now if you're in the US. If you missed out, you didn't really want it that much. Do you know what I mean? Or you basically forgot about it, or you slept in, or whatever it was, or you might have saw something that thought it was out of stock when actually it was maybe just some kind of glitch or something like that. But there was copies flying around. People online, people in the Cursed City Facebook group, people in my Facebook group, people in our Patreon chat. We're constantly sending links to each other. Here, these ones have got them in stock. These have got them in stock. Tim Kelly, who's in the chat tonight, was saying, "Oh, I really wanted the book. It's a shame it was out of stock." And somebody says, "Oh, I've just found it. Magic Madhouse have still got the book in stock." Somebody sent a link. Tim picked up the book in the afternoon. This was probably about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, when the book was sold out everywhere. There was still, if you go to some of these kind of slightly more obscure independent retailers, there was still plenty of stock kicking about well into the late afternoon. VG says the GW scalping thing honestly makes me laugh. It's a joke compared to scalping in entertainment industry. Yeah, I was just that's kind of what I was on about when it comes to like boxing tickets, when it's music kind of events, when it's festivals, all that kind of stuff. That's when scalping really happens, and that's the point where people will still pay over the odds because to them, like going to a music festival for the weekend might be worth twice the price because all of their friends have already got tickets. And actually, maybe it's worth spending the extra because actually they're going to have a fantastic weekend and the experience is worth more to them than the price of the kind of the scalp tickets. It's everywhere. It's everywhere when it comes like there's a whole industry. Look at people like Seatwave and what they called. I forget what the other ones are called. There's industries set up to buy big chunks of music venue tickets and sell them on the secondary market. They're huge. It's a huge business. It's just not that big when it comes to Games Workshop stuff. I think we like to think it is, but it just isn't. Neil Pilot is $20 for a single figure and then $30 for shipping and handling. Shipping prices, man. It depends where they're shipping to. If they're shipping from the US to the UK or vice versa, that's where you're going to pay them shipping prices. Richard Parker says, hands up here, I wasn't even aware it had a pre-order date. I'm just happy to wait. That's kind of my point, Richard. I mean, at least you kind of I missed out because I didn't even realise. This is kind of what I mean. If people missed out, generally they either weren't ready or they didn't even realise they had to be ready. And either one is well, that's just the reason, unfortunately. John Ashley says, dying of thirst are you? Near heat exhaustion, $10 and you might live. It doesn't, we talked about this before, it doesn't happen with essential items. Nobody is withholding like kind of food and water from people. They might be in some third world countries and stuff or that kind of stuff. But generally in the UK, in the US and mainland Europe, like essential items are not scalped. Nobody is buying up all the milk in Sainsbury's and then trying to flog it for a £5 a pint outside kind of thing. This only really happens with luxury items which have high appeal and lower overall numbers initially. But don't forget, this is coming back. This is another reason why not to get too upset about it. In a few weeks' time, you'll be able to buy it again. John Kimmel says, I was the first in line at my local Warhammer store right when the site refreshed. I bought the collector's edition. Literally right after I ordered the collector's edition, it was sold out. I'll be honest, mate. I find ordering in a Games Workshop, in a Warhammer shop store, going in to order, because they just order through their web terminal just the same way. I don't know why you would do that, if I'm honest, mate. But yeah, I mean, the limited edition books, there was like, what was there, sort of 1,500 copies or something like that. There wasn't a lot. Unfortunately, they're going to sell out fast. That's just how it is. Walter Black says, our friendly little gaming store is still getting boxes in despite pre-orders. Here's my point, mate. You kind of answered it there. Josh Hash says, now can we get GW to put out the original Warcry box for a normal price? That's a different thing, mate. The reason that they don't do that is because the content is available to buy elsewhere. That's their business model. They make a set amount of those kind of boxes, and then actually, if you want to get into the game down the line, you have to buy the separate bits and pieces. Do I agree with it? No, I don't. But that's a different issue to this. This is not about scalpers and all that kind of stuff. That's just their business model. That's how they make money. This is why the shareholders keep investing in them and why their shares keep going up, because they've got a good business model that works for them. Doesn't mean I have to like it, but that's the fact. That's the truth of it. Ian Inman says, most friendly local gaming stores were only offering a saving of £12.50 to £25. It wasn't that much, and absolutely it was available from GW Web Store for a long time. I mean, it's still a decent saving, to be fair, mate. I mean, if you're saving £25 on a £125 product, you're saving 20%. That's quite a chunk. I bought the game and the book and got free shipping for less than I would have paid from Games Workshop for the game on its own. So it's still a decent saving, and that might be the difference between somebody being able to afford it or not afford it, to be fair. But if your friendly little gaming store sold out in 10 minutes because they had a limited amount of copies, Games Workshop still had them in for a chunk of time. Glenn Griffin, evening Andy, says, I feel with this topic it's the standard quo it is setting, or the status quo it's setting. Every release seems to be a race to get it these days instead of just being able to pick them up when you want. Let me play devil's advocate, Glenn, right, and flick it back. Why is everybody entitled to have it? Why should everybody just be able to get it when they want it? Like, if you want to buy sort of limited edition Nike Jordan shoes, can you just buy them anytime you want? If you want to buy a Louis Vuitton handbag kind of thing, if your partner wants to buy a Louis Vuitton handbag, can you just go in and buy that one whenever you want, or are they really the desirable ones? Are they limited? I'm not suggesting that you're wrong. I'm just kind of throwing it back and just putting devil's advocate. Why does everybody deserve to have everything? Like, if you really want something, be prepared to get it. The other side of it is you don't have to have everything. People, especially with GW fanboys, seem to think that they need to buy everything Games Workshop produces, and that's just not it. You don't have to buy everything, but people get caught up in the hype, they get caught up in the FOMO, and they feel like they have to have everything. You don't. I've literally, from Games Workshop, this is the first thing I have bought in months and months and months. When it was announced, I knew exactly this is what I want. This is right up my street. It's exactly the kind of game I like to play. I love the theme. And even I set myself a price limit on this one. There was a price limit. I was not going to pay more than. So if Games Workshop had come up with this and said it's £150, I would have said, look, it's not for me. Unless I can get it cheaper than that with discount from online stores, I am not paying £150 for this. So I set myself a price limit. But when I found out it was £125, I said, right, I'm going to try and get one. But you know what? If it had sold out in 5 minutes and I'd missed out, That's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. And in this instance, it's coming back. It doesn't set a precedent. This is getting reprinted. It's going to be around for a couple of years. It does not set any precedent. Christoph says, what left a bad taste is all the website crashes, meaning very stressful morning and missing out on the set with the key, even though I had it twice in my shopping cart. The problem is, mate, I think is you could put it in your shopping cart even when they had none left, and I think that was what was causing problems, and that was what was causing some of the issues and some of the crashes. Unfortunately, those crashes were crashes for everyone. I just don't think, I don't think their websites, or a lot of websites to be fair, are set up for that kind of demand. It happens on when stores have sales and stuff like that. The websites are just not set up for that kind of demand. Silver MKI saying limited stocks mean more demand and less costs to sit on stock. Gives the illusion of premium in-demand product. The thing is, though, Matt, think about that if it's your business, think about that, right? Why would you intentionally make less than you could and create this kind of hype for something that you are going to sell anyway, that you're going to keep making, you're going to keep selling? It doesn't make any sense. What makes sense is that they had a finite amount of time that production line was going to make Cursed City product, and then they had to come off that to make something else, and they're going to go back to it and top up their stocks later on down the line. Like, this is I think that you're looking at this from a point of view as in they are intentionally trying to piss people off. They are intentionally trying to stop people buying it. And when you are a company who has shareholders and every year you need to make more and more profit, the description of basically kind of like holding product back and intentionally not selling it does not make any business or financial sense at all. Cat ate my sandwich, and like a good name, mate. Says, to be honest, it actually sold out later than I thought it would. I agree. I think, honestly, they had way more stock of this than we're giving them credit for. I think it's just been really popular. Spiderlord says, I'm on a page with backup to another site, hitting refresh at 10 a.m. It's the only way. I sat there, I had my Goblin Gaming website up, I'm hitting F5. When it got to 2 minutes to, I was refreshing. When it hit 10 o'clock, I knew it would be there. It didn't show up on the homepage, so I just searched for it. There it was. I put it straight in my basket. Thomas is saying, if they don't want to sit on a pile of game, they don't want to sit on a pile of game, nothing once. Yes, I agree, mate. It's not good business sense to have a warehouse full of stuff that nobody wants, making too much stuff. I completely agree. Marcus is saying, also, this is only the second item GW has had sell out on release day, so it's not a common thing. It's not. To be fair, mate, it's not only the second thing. All of those kind of like Warhammer 40k boxes with the two armies in, the Sisters of Battle thing sold out on the first day as well. Indomitus sold out on its first day. There's quite a lot of stuff sells out. However, a lot of their stuff, that's how they do it. I think Blood Bowl sold out and then they reprinted more and stuff like that. So you've got to realise that is there a nice little side effect of the fact that everybody wants it, knowing there's going to be limited, so they all rush and get it on day one? Yes, it's a nice side effect, but they are not intentionally sort of keeping stock levels low and refusing to sell more if they could have made more. There's a scheduling issue, there's a production capacity here in the background that we're just not we don't get to see. And actually, I would love to see just how many copies they actually sell. Like I said before, 5,000 copies went in about 5 or 10 minutes. And I was being really kind of sort of cautious, seeing over the next 80 minutes, they only sold another sort of 25,000 copies or something. I was being really kind of sort of cautious with that. They could let's say they sold 5,000 copies in 10 minutes and they had another 8 times that. What's that? 5 8s. That's another 40,000 copies. They could quite easily have sold nearly 50,000 copies of this through their website in that 90 minutes. I think we kind of underestimate just how many people buy this stuff. Dave Dog says, all scalpers must be lynched. It's such a tiny, tiny percent. It does not even affect you. It doesn't affect you in the slightest. And I'm sure you've benefited from it in the past when you see somebody splitting down a box and you only want to buy half of it. Or you've bought a box. How many people bought the Indomitors box and then try to sell on the Necrons because they only wanted the Space Marines? That's no different to what these people are doing as well. Thomas is saying, being in on the third wave of Indomitors but got my copy. So what? It's kind of it, mate. If you're willing to wait, then it's fine, isn't it? It's absolutely fine. This is why some people will pay over the odds because they want instant gratification. They want it now. Animus says, people get so used to getting everything quickly online that they can't resist missing out. And this is my point, mate. But that says more about the individual. It says less about scalpers. It says less about about GW. It says less about the system, and it's more about the individual basically getting angry and getting annoyed because they want instant gratification and didn't get it. Glenn saying, I feel you should be able to get the item when you want it, not having to be there at 10 a.m. Unfortunately, mate, that's just not going to happen. If you want something which is really popular, you're going to have to be there for it. And if you're not there for it, you're going to have to be willing to wait until it comes back into stock. That's just life. Like, it's not a case of them just having warehouses full of stuff, just saying, oh, like Johnny from the middle of kind of France only wants to order his on Monday, so let's kind of like make sure that we've got plenty hanging about. If you want something, like, you've got to put a bit of effort in. Like, if you want something, you have to be there to get it. Like, otherwise, you've only got yourself to blame. What was that one? Bodyguard of Lies there just jumped off the top of my screen. Let me see if I can go back and find that one. I don't think I'm going to have time to go through everybody's comments, to be fair. I can't find where that was now. It's just disappeared. There's a lot of comments tonight, to be fair. I'm going to have to try and go back and read some of these as well. I'm sorry, I can't find where that comment is now, Bodyguard of Lies. There it is. GW can afford a ton of warehousing in Nottingham for peanuts in this economy. Certainly enough that it could store enough product to meet demand. Do you know what it is? They probably could. They probably could buy more warehousing. But you know what they can't do? They can't make any more product because their production lines are absolutely full. It's nothing at all to do with warehousing. It's a combination of warehousing. If they could make more, they probably need more warehousing as well. And we know that last year, before the pandemic started, they were looking to expand. They were looking to put more production facilities in. But obviously, the COVID stuff has kind of has slowed that down and stuff. But they physically can't make any more product. They are maxed out. Their production lines are running 24/7. And there's no more space to make more product. If they make more Cursed City, they make less of the next product. And then that has a knock-on effect that instead of having, say, 50,000 copies of Cursed City for the UK market, and I'm just using these as rough numbers, they have 70,000 copies of it. It means when they come and run the next product, which might be the new Necromunda box set, they've only got 20,000 copies because they made more Cursed City. They took too long making more Cursed City. They didn't have enough time left to make the Necromunda box set. And unfortunately, that's just reality. That's how it works. James Hanna says, next time be logged into GW site with your details already at 9:55. That's your best chance. It's exactly what I recommended people do last week. You've got a My Warhammer account now where you can go in, you can save your delivery address, you can save your credit card details, you want to be signed in and you want to be ready to go. What you don't want to be doing for these things, I mean, it wouldn't have made any difference on Saturday. If you were there 10 o'clock, you'd have got one. But a lot of these things that sell out super quick, what you don't want to be doing is sitting there kind of typing for 5 minutes, typing your name in, typing your address in, finding your postcode from a drop-down list and all this kind of stuff, then getting your credit card and typing the numbers out and doing a credit card check. And if you're doing all of that stuff and these things sell out fast, you're going to miss out. That's why I was saying last week, you need to be prepared. You need to be there, prepped, ready to go. Phil Johnson says, a funny thing about scalping seems like a world away, but you used to see so many people at GW events, open day, weekend, and loading up a gym bag full of exclusives. That hurts. Cursed City, not so much. Yeah, it agrees, mate. Birthday kind of events, that kind of stuff. Limited edition minis, all that kind of stuff. Adam says, the harsh reality might upset a few people. Also, scalping issue is different for a pre-order stock versus a limited item. Technically, mate, it's not any different. The only difference is that once they're gone, they're gone. However, the scalpers are still a minute volume of the overall sales. It's still a tiny amount, and you still have to be there at 10 o'clock ready for the pre-orders if you really, really want it. If you're there, if you don't turn up till 10:30 because you've had a lie in or you've kind of had something else to do, chances are you're going to miss out with a lot of these one and done things. You just have, unfortunately, it might sound really harsh, but it's just reality. You have to look at yourself. The system is the system. The system's not going to change. You can't change the system. You can't influence the system. You can moan about it, but it's not going to change. What you can do is control what you do. You can be there at 10 o'clock. You can be prepared and ready to go and have all of your stuff set up and ready to go. Control what you can control and don't get angry about stuff that really is outside of your control. Brumster says, are they not using bots to buy it? Not really, mate. Not for this kind of stuff. And when Games Workshop are limiting you to one per order, their systems basically wouldn't allow, unless somebody's got 100 addresses and 100 credit cards and all that kind of stuff. But we see from the amount of stuff that's on eBay for sale, as I showed before, I counted them up before the live stream started. There was 32 cursed cities on eBay for sale. 32. That's all. And we are estimating they maybe sold 40,000, 50,000, plus all of the friendly local gaming store copies as well. 32 copies that went to scalpers. Like it's a drop in the ocean. It's tiny in the grand scheme of things, but people like to have somebody else to blame. VJ saying most of them use bots or industry connections to source them. Yeah, and that's on a different scale. That's when we're starting to talk about like sort of sports tickets, like Super Bowl tickets, or we're talking about music festivals and that kind of stuff. Stuff where you can really turn a profit, where you can buy a ticket for 50 quid and kind of sell it for like 500 quid, that kind of stuff. Nobody's messing about with kind of boxes of Cursed City where they're going to make 20, 30 quid on them and stuff. VG says, not gamers that pick up an extra copy to sell on. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, not talking about pro scalpers. Yeah, exactly. Sorry. Dead Hand says, I spent a month's wages on a Charizard when I was younger. Still regret it to this day. Some guy says, I wasn't too fussed about getting Cursed City game because I'm willing to buy it when it's released. I wanted the limited book, so I was there at 9:30 refreshing the pre-order page and managed to get one. That's kind of my point, mate, isn't it? Thomas says, the worst thing for me was the anxiety up to the pre-order of not getting one. I do agree with that, mate, and I think it causes a lot of stress. It causes a lot of kind of anxiety in people. People get themselves all worked up. They're sitting there at 5:2, their heart's palpitating and stuff, and people get themselves worked up for it. But unfortunately, that's the case for any of these things where you need to be there, ready to go kind of thing. So I do agree. But if it's really that bad, I'd suggest maybe like not get somebody else to do it for you, or don't buy into it. Like don't, especially with something like this where there's more coming kind of thing. Mark was saying, I agree with all your points, Andy. I'm not doing this to be nasty to people. I'm not trying to kind of point fingers and going, ha ha, you missed out kind of thing. It's not about that. I'm trying to suggest that actually we need to look at ourselves when it comes to these kind of things. Could I have done more? Was I there when pre-orders went live at 10 o'clock, or did I decide to have a lie in or kind of go and have a cup of coffee and I thought there'll be plenty to go around, I'll go and have a look at about midday or something like that. And look at things from a scalping perspective. Look how much of stuff. Look from your particular region and look on eBay, because let's be honest, nobody's really selling it anywhere else apart from eBay. You might get the odd copy on Facebook or somebody selling it down the club or something, but the vast majority of people who are trying to turn a profit will get this on eBay on day one. Have a look on eBay and see how many copies are for sale. It is nowhere near the volume of stuff that you might think that it is. And as I said before, if 40,000 copies of this were sold in the UK and there's 100 copies for sale on eBay, I counted 32, let's say there's 100 for sale with all the splitting and stuff like that, that is 1/4%. That is such a small amount. If it was your business, you'd be happy with if 1/4% got damaged in transit. Like that's how much you kind of like sort of damaged product is probably like something like 2% or something like that, damaged boxes and stuff. You'd be over the moon with 1/4% going missing kind of thing because of damage. It is a tiny, tiny, tiny percentage. Scalping, when it comes to these Games Workshop stuff, yes, it happens, But this isn't what's stopping people getting the game on day one. What's stopping people getting the game on day one is that there are only so many to go around, and there are a lot of people that want it. And if you're not there ready to go when the orders go live, then you're limiting your chances of picking one up. Spiderlord says, I just found a copy under RRP. Took me 2 minutes. They are out there. You need to have strategies. Yeah, I don't disagree, mate. Andrew saying, yes, Sisters Box 2, yeah, they had issues on them. Yeah, I did mention that one. The video I made was about things like Carrion Empire, about Feast of Bones. I got a copy of Feast of Bones a few days later from a gaming shop. I really wanted the Ossiarch Bone Reapers. So you can get them if you look around and stuff. What was the other ones I was thinking of? Shadow Spear, I think it was. It Shadow Spear? I think that was one of the kind of like the marine boxes and stuff. VG says, I disagree with scalping ethically and morally. That said, in this specific case, doesn't worry me overly as it doesn't impact me. I wasn't one of the people who wanted it. It doesn't really matter whether you agree with it morally or not, mate, to be fair. It is such a small percentage that it almost doesn't make any difference. It just, like, there'll be more people sitting on 2 copies because they got overexcited and ordered from 2 different places to make sure that they got it. There'll be more people that have done that who would then have to try and sell them on at list price just to get their money back. There'll be more people doing that than there are scalpers. Bobby Clock says it's going to take Andy 2 hours to read half these comments. Out of curiosity, how long until the next wave of Curse City gets shipped out? The rumours are, mate, it's not long. I think it's like a month or something like that. I don't think it's too long, mate. You're right, it is going to take me a long time. I'm just going to kind of dive forward a little bit and pick some comments out. Wes Huffer says, I can send you one if you're really worried about not getting one. I got mine sorted, mate. I was there ready to go. Glenn says, it's mad that we live in a world where you have to be ready to buy in the first hour and a half for the board game. Think about it. Let's think about it from a different thing. So Aldi, for example, in the UK on a Thursday, they have like some stuff that goes for sale in their store, and they're always really cheap and they're always limited numbers. People queue outside. They queue outside waiting for the store to open. Think about how it used to be on like Boxing Day sales and stuff when the store had like one like 3-piece sofa for sale for like £100 or something like that to try and like sort of generate hype and sales. You had people camping outside of department stores, sort of queuing up waiting to go in. Like you can remember when people used to have to queue outdoors to get a ticket to the cinema, people queuing to go and see Star Wars, people queuing outside hours and hours in advance, days in advance to go and see the latest films. This is not a modern day thing. This is not something new. It's just because it's something that is maybe important to you, so you notice it. But this is not a new phenomenon. Like people have been queuing up days in advance to get things that they really want. It might not be worth it to you to camp outside of a cinema for 2 days to go and see the film. It certainly wouldn't be to me, but there are people who have done it. And that's my point, really. Tim, saying there about Magic Madhouse. I'm going to scroll forward a little bit now, try and catch up a little bit with it time-wise. Corvus Korak says, you're right, I did not fully want it, even though I had the perfect chance. I just double-checked my grey mountain of plastic and asked myself if I really need another box. Yeah, that's it, mate. Warwick says you would go into a GW store to order via a computer pre-order because that store manager gets credit for that sale. They are hounded and beaten down by GW. I agree with that, mate, but in this instance, I wouldn't be risking missing out, like just for that store manager to get credit. If I was really, like, for example, if you turn up the store and you're 4th or 5th in the queue, you might think, oh, there's only 3 people in front of me. That's all right. But those 3 people have to go through that whole process of typing on the computer and filling all that stuff out. You'd be better off just standing in the queue and ordering it on your phone. You might as well not bother when it comes to that kind of stuff. I would hate people to miss out because they're trying to do somebody else a favour kind of thing. I know it's a nice thing to do, but you like if that's the only thing you're going to buy this year, you're not really kind of like loyalty-wise, you're not really going to be helping. And when it comes to other stuff, like the store, if that's the case, those stores should have stock sent to them, not just people ordering through a portal in the store. I think that's a stupid system. Sorry, John saying, and that comment was in relation to water bottles warm from being in the sun at Sarstock 2003. We were going high as $10 a bottle in 30 Celsius heat with no shade. Yeah, I don't agree with that kind of stuff at festivals and stuff when they find like when there's no water to be had. and it's heat like that. I do agree with that kind of stuff, mate. Let me scroll down a little bit and catch up on some of these. James Hanna saying, I am able to add a pre-order of Curse City on Goblin Gaming for £100, which says that it's made to order copy when it's released, if that helps anyone. Yeah, I think anybody can make it at the minute. I think at the minute that's the way they're doing it. Dave Mackay says, minis look amazing, but decide against getting a copy. I've got a printer and loads of minis to paint. I'm not fussed about getting it. I'm really looking forward to playing the game, mate. The minis are nice, but that's kind of just part of the parcel for me. I really want to play the game. Yeah, Bobby Clark saying the Outpost, their web store, saying it'll be released in under 2 weeks. I think one of the issues, mate, is people didn't know the timescales on Saturday. It seems like the timescales are coming out now, so it would have been nice to know that on Saturday, and that might have took a little bit of anxiety away from people as well. Ruas is saying, I saw it in a shop but decided to pass on it for someone who really wanted it. Was available in other shops in Denmark for like 24 hours or... Randomly, I think some regions seem to already have their stock and they've been selling it already. Tim says, non-essential shops reopen again from next Monday. So gaming shops back open. Was Curse City a last lockdown money grab? I don't think so, mate. I think it's purely just... I think it's just timing-wise. I think it's been delayed, if I'm honest. It was meant to be out a while ago. Scroll ahead a little bit. Colonel Billington says, has the lockdown influenced number of sales? Quite possibly, mate. I mean, I think people are clamoring for something. They're looking for something to look forward to. Like, there's not a lot to look forward to at the minute. It's a game that you can play solo, so maybe that's influencing people, making them want to get it. But I think the top and bottom of it is that it's a good game. Like, I think the miniatures are fantastic. I think it's come at a time when people are maybe starved of something that they want to spend their money on something. They want to buy something. There's not been a lot of other stuff really when it comes to gaming wise. Not unless you're a Lumineth player, which is obviously a smaller portion of people. This is one of those things that appeals to a wider range of people. Luke Pryor says, I felt dozed off, woke up after 11 o'clock, saw 3 places I could pick it up, but wanted it from a specific place and got the second wave order down the line. If you wanted it, it was there for you. That's kind of my point, mate. Yeah, that's it. Glenn saying, what about the product life cycle of these games? The original Warhammer Quest, the one after that too, Blackstone Fortress, how many people are still getting them out? I don't think that really makes any difference, mate. That's up to individuals. I still play my Silver Tower game. I didn't buy Blackstone Fortress. It wasn't really what I wanted, but I still play my Silver Tower game. Who's really, like, how many people buy these limited edition box sets from GW and then never do anything with them? They just sit on the shelves. Once you've bought the game and it's yours, you can do with it what you want. You can put it on your shelf and never touch it if you want. You can play it every single game. I think most people who buy board games generally don't play them that often. They might play them maybe once or twice, and then they go on the shelf and they want to play something else. I think that's just generally the way. It's the consumerism that's kind of like in the world right now. I just think that it's just a sign of the times, mate. So I don't think it's just this one. Like, the life cycle of a game is really up to the individuals. Philip Fall says, I think scalpers are going after the larger things like PS5s, Xbox video cards in the States. Yeah, Warhammer isn't it. That's interesting. When I was at the GW store, was sold out within 16 minutes or so. It's interesting, mate, because people saying when it was sold out at the GW store, it definitely wasn't sold out. I'm not sure what region you're. I think if you're in the States, sorry. I think we were looking actually because somebody in the Patreon group was saying, oh, it goes up for sale in the US soon, and we kept looking at it just to kind of see how long it was there for, and it was there for quite some time. Now, certainly what happened was, if you had the key in your basket or you had the book in your basket at the same time, and they'd sold out, it stopped you buying the game because it was saying items in your basket are no longer available. And I think a lot of people got kind of confused and thought, oh, it's sold out now, and gave up. But actually what was sold out was either the book or the key itself. Was basically they'd run out of the available amount. But the game itself, if you just went in and put the game in the basket, you could buy it for quite some time. And I think there's a little bit of GW could do with a better way of handling that, because people were putting stuff into their basket and then it was saying you couldn't have it, rather than just saying this is out of stock, we'll take it off kind of thing. So Warwick saying, waiting outside isn't new. What's new is not getting a pre-order from GW later in the same day. This is new, as most releases a year ago had longer amounts of time to order items. I tell you what's changed, mate, is popularity. Look at how much money Games Workshop make these days. They are not selling less copies anymore than they used to. The popularity's gone up like COVID. People hobbying at home, people having nothing else to do. That's what's changed. It's not about them making less than they used to, because if that's the case, how on earth are their profits going through the roof year on year? They are selling way more than they ever used to. There's just more people buying it, because I think people are buying into this hype now of I need everything that's coming out. Javen saying the only issue with scalpers is those who choose to pay the ridiculous prices. If people didn't pay it, there would be no market. You're right, but do you know what it is? Some people are quite willing to pay over the odds because they've got the money. Because to them, the money's irrelevant. And like I said before, there's only 32 copies on eBay. I'm sure there's 32 people dotting about the world who are quite happy to pay a little bit more just so they can have it now. Because guess what? They earn lots of money, and money isn't an issue to them. It is to me. I wouldn't pay over the odds. But then I'm not sitting on millions of pounds in the bank. Steve saying the only thing I wanted from it was the minis, but I'm weird that way. I'm sure there's a lot of people who only wanted the minis, mate. And guess what you'll see online? You'll see people just selling all the cardboard. Is that any worse than a scalper? Is that any different? Is that denying somebody that wanted to play the game? Is that taking it off them? Not if you kind of by the definition of the law, if you like. VG says, I find it funny that people ascribe such a malicious, greedy motives to GW, yet defend the free market ideology of scalping. Says more about them. Alan Stewart says, are people really that confused by the idea of physical product having limited numbers? It's not a PDF. Anyway, the game looks great and looking forward to playing it on Saturday. I think people just get... I come at this. I worked in manufacturing and product development for 15 years. I have a long history. Before I stopped doing that last year, and I now do this full time. This is now my full time job. I spent 15 years in manufacturing and product development for a company, and prior to that, I worked in engineering in a manufacturing plant. So I understand about sort of predicted sales from like production planning. I understand about production plans, about like having set specific runs of each product, because you don't like if you just keep making one product all the time, you're not making other stuff. You won't have like production lines just sitting there with nothing to do. Like you say, oh, we don't need to make any Space Marines this week, so we'll just turn that line off. That's not how it works. You need to utilize your assets. You need to make sure those production lines are running efficiently. So what you'll do is you'll say, right, we're going to make 50,000 copies of Cursed City, and it has to be done in 3 weeks, because in 3 weeks' time we're moving on to the next product. And they'll have done that 6, 8, 9, 12 months ago. So it's not just a case of like, oh, we've sold out. Can you just run a few more off, please? That's not how it works. People think it is. People literally think you just turn the machine on and make some more. But these machines are not just sitting there idle with nothing to do. They are making stuff that is also selling. VJ says, if Andy was sitting on millions of pounds in the bank, I'd still support the Patreon. I tell you what, mate, I am not sitting on millions of pounds, that's for sure. I used to have a really well-paid job, and I left it to do this because, do you know what? I hated that job, and I love doing what I'm doing. So now I literally scrape by. I do not make enough really to have any kind of luxury stuff. So buying something like Cursed City for me is a real treat. I really wanted it. I'm not willing to pay over the odds because I don't have enough, but I've been saving up for this. This is something that meant something to me, and I really wanted it. So guess what? I was there at 10 o'clock waiting to push the button, and that's the point I'm making, really. VJ says, only for the bacon chat. Wait until the bacon t-shirts, mate. We'll get them ones this week. Steve says, yeah, the only issue I have for the scalpers when they're selling collector's items with limited run like Horus Heresy books at 500% markup. However, if I can play devil's advocate again, those scalpers are there at 10 o'clock ready to buy that. If you really, really want it, are you there at 10 o'clock to buy it? And if you are and you miss out, unfortunately, somebody else beat you to it. That's just how it is. Like, They only buy those things and mark them up because there are people willing to pay over the odds, because some people just have money. Unfortunately, that's the world. Luke saying, what about the new Warhammer Underworld's Vampire Warband? Damn, they are 4 fabulous minis. They are nice, mate, to be fair. I've got no use for them, really, but if I saw them like on a shelf or something, I'm not going to be like kind of like 10 o'clock refreshing job for them. But if I saw them on a shelf in a hobby store or something, I might pick them up to paint them. They are nice. Mr. Mebult, how do I pronounce that? MB Brult, is it? Agreed. Going point on your production experience. It's easy for people to ascribe malice to things they don't fully understand. I worked for a company which basically, to kind of cut a long story short, what happened was a competitor had a fire. And the competitor couldn't fulfill their orders. So all of their customers come to the company that I worked for and increased their orders. And essentially what happened was the company I worked for couldn't meet up that demand. So they ended up selling a lot of their safety stock. So they would have like what's called safety stock. And that is basically stock that they make so that they can afford to not make that for a while and go and make something else. The safety stocks all started to come down. Sales never went back down again when this other company opened, and they got themselves into a horrible spiral of just kind of like trying to make a little bit of this, a little bit of this, a little bit of this. And what happened was you become very, very inefficient, and you're completely maxed out, and there's nothing you can do. And you basically, at that point, you've got two options. One is you stop promoting your product. You don't sell any discounted stuff, because why sell it at a discount when you can make full money? GW don't sell discounted stuff, but they do sell it to third parties. So maybe they've lowered the amount that went out to third parties. The other thing is you can potentially outsource your product. You can go to a competitor and say, can you make some product for us? GW don't do that. They don't send their molds out. They don't even have spare molds, but they wouldn't send them out to a competitor to kind of make product for them. So unfortunately, they're kind of stuck. So what they have to do is they have to make smaller production runs of each product to try and kind of build back to that level, or they need to stop selling certain products, which is why recently they went to like 2-week releases instead of weekly releases, because that gave them a chance to try and catch up a little bit. Like it's not like it's not somebody like sitting there going, I'm going to make less than people want and I'm going to make everybody go angry about it. Like, that's not how you run a business. VJ saying that the GW sculpts are really delivering at the moment. Yeah, I really like the Cities of Sigmar stuff that they shared today, the father and daughter vampire hunters. I like that aesthetic. It's not enough to get me into AOS, but it might be enough to get me to buy a few models just to paint for fun, that's for sure. Thomas Trade Table, hello, says, do you think this box will work for D&D campaign, lore and model wise? I was going to use Warcry battling for a faster and more entertaining game. From what I've seen, mate, from what I understand from people like Ash Barker who've been doing a bit more of a deep dive into it, there's a lot more kind of leveling up in this game than there was in Blackstone Fortress. There's a lot more of a kind of narrative story through it. So I think as a kind of like, not really as a D&D campaign, but as a kind of like a campaign game, I think you and a group of people could have a lot of fun with it. Right, I think I've caught up by skipping over loads of those questions. Glenn Griffin saying, from an aesthetic point of view, if you look at the board for Curse City versus, say, Warcry, a Warcry table full of 3D terrain looks far more appealing. It does, mate, I agree. However, they're two completely different things. Warcry is a skirmish game, and Cursed City is a board game. They're two completely different things. So it's not really like, I think people who are GW fans don't always sort of differentiate the two. But Cursed City is a board game. It comes with board game miniatures kind of thing, high quality miniatures, but that's why the heroes are all one colour and all of the kind of like the evil ones are all a different colour. The push fit miniatures, everything's on the card and sort of punch out. It's a board game, and their board games don't have lots of terrain because, to be honest, board gamers are a different market really. What's different with Games Workshop is there are a lot of GW fans who just love their miniatures, so we'll buy their stuff just for the miniatures. But Cursed City, like Warhammer Quest, it's just a board game. Glenn saying, do you have any news on this extra factory GW said they were building back when the Sisters of Battle Army box released? Yeah, so a while ago, mate. So this is before the lockdown stuff, before or like over a year ago. Like I say, I did a video about the kind of the secret to like kind of why these boxes sell out, and it was in the Nottingham Press that they'd been getting planning permission to build a new site on their current site, basically to expand for more warehousing and more production capacity. And I think there might have been a few issues like planning permission and stuff, but it was all going ahead. And I think what's happened basically is it's all come to a stop because I think, one, obviously COVID's stopped a lot of the building work and things like that. If it's anything like the company I used to work for, the machines that are made in a completely different country. Like in the industry I was in, all the machines were either made out in Germany or they were made in Italy. Sort of with everything that's going on at the minute, it's not that easy to get those kind of like workers over from Italy over into the UK to be installing machines and stuff. So there's that kind of stuff to deal with. Also, the fact is that Games Workshop they're probably realigning now to see what state the market's in. Everything's on its head. Everything's turned upside down. They might be like selling out now, but actually once things go back to normal, will sales actually start to back off again? Will there still be the demand once people can get out and sort of start seeing people and start socialising and going on holiday and all that kind of stuff? Will there be like a kind of crash at the end of this? Will they maintain those high stock levels? So I think what they're probably doing is that they're probably not stock levels, the high sales levels, sorry. So I think what they're doing is they're probably just kind of hanging back a little bit and just waiting to find out. But it was all planned to go ahead, and I think obviously the last 12 months is not a good time to invest when the future is very uncertain. VG says, as someone who has only just scraped by for years to be able to pursue their passion in life, I hear you on that. So glad you're also doing what you love now. Honestly, mate, I couldn't be happier. I love doing this. I have bad days, of course I do still. The pandemic's really come at a bad time for me when I'm just kind of starting out on this journey, and I wanted to get out and meet people and play games and all that kind of stuff. So the last year could have been better. But even a bad day doing this is still better than a good day doing my old job. So yeah, I ain't going to complain about doing what I love for a job, that's for sure, mate. Bobby says, I don't think I've ever built up so much rage that I felt I had to comment on a GW page and vent. Perhaps some people's mental health is worsening due to these tense times. I think there's a lot of that, mate. I mean, I saw people absolutely raging about YouTubers getting their copies and just like absolutely like tearing people apart for making mistakes on playthroughs and things. And I even commented and I just said, look, like, people are human. People make mistakes. Everybody makes a mistake when they play a game. It's just that they don't record it and have 1,000 people watch it back and comment on it, kind of thing. Like, cut people some slack. I feel at the minute that there's some real negativity. Maybe it's just getting to that point where, like, obviously, like on the continent, in places like France and Germany and Italy and stuff, lockdowns are starting to happen again. So I think you're maybe getting a little bit of pressure from that. Here in the UK, we've been locked down pretty much for a year, and we're on the cusp of maybe starting to get out again. Maybe people are starting to get a bit anxious about that. I just think people's mental health has took a real bashing, and things that ordinarily would have just washed over them are really kind of lighting a fuse under them at the minute, and it's not good. It's not good, mate. Disco Dolly says, not many people work in manufacturing anymore, so long-term forward planning is not a thing in the Amazon culture. In the business I work for, we plan 12 to 24 months ahead. It's interesting because the business I used to work in, I mean, I'll openly tell people, we used to make toilet rolls and kitchen towel and paper products. And the difference with that is, it is bulky, so you do not want like warehouses full of that stuff. You almost want to make it slightly more like kind of like just in time. And also, basically it sells through constantly. It's constantly being sold. So the company I worked for were almost like, they were only really planning like a month in advance to try and kind of see what like promotions were happening, what sales were doing, what new products were launching. So they were only really kind of working about a month in advance. But things like Games Workshop work sort of 12 months out, basically. Like, they'll have been making this Cursed City stuff like quite some time ago. They might have been waiting for cardboard coming from China, or they might have been waiting for they might have been sort of maybe they went back and made a little bit more to try and boost the stocks of it or something like that. But generally, it's like it's not a science in getting it right, or like kind of guessing how popular something will be in 12 months time. Like if they took kind of the popularity of Blackstone Fortress and said, right, this is how many Blackstone Fortress we sold in the first 2 months. So if we make that amount, that's kind of a safe bet. It's going to kind of cater to a similar market. It's probably the same amount. Imagine if they made 2 months worth of like the sales of Blackstone Fortress. That's kind of how you would plan ahead. You would look at something similar and how did that sell? Imagine if they'd done that and then basically sold it out in 90 minutes. I think that's exactly what's happening. I think it's just lockdown mentality. People want something new. People have maybe got a bit of spare money in their pocket because they're not paying for traveling to work. They're not paying for like monthly passes for trains and that kind of stuff because people are working at home. I think it's just creating a bit of a different mentality at the moment. VJ saying, with restrictions easing, I'm sure you'll be getting out there soon. I'm sure the channel will take off and you'll be flat out before you know it. What I've been doing is I have been doing some kind of secret squirrel work in the background, making a gaming room ready for when I can get people to my house to play. So what I'll be doing my streaming from in here and kind of do all my video work and stuff in here. But I'm setting up a separate area with a table in and cameras in, so I can record gameplay, and it means I can kind of record gameplay, leave it set up if I kind of come and do a live stream or I'm doing a painting stream or something. So I'm in the middle of doing that at the moment. That's what I've been doing all day today. I ordered the cameras yesterday. So everything's starting to come together for that. I've been saving up all the Patreon money over a period of time to get to the point where I can kind of invest in the next step. And the idea being, I've got like a recording room. I won't be streaming from there. I won't put a computer and stuff in there. It'll just be for recording gameplay. So I'll have multiple cameras set up. I can just play a game, press record on all the cameras, forget about the cameras recording, not be sitting here like trying to do the live stream, stop switching between them, just concentrate on playing the game and then basically pull all the footage back, edit it and review it and stuff like that. And it means when people want to come, like big companies might want to come and show off one of their games, like sort of Patreons and kind of like friends locally might want to just come and play a game on camera, or they might just want to come and play a game kind of thing. So I'm working on that in the background, ready for June. Basically June is when we can really start to release restrictions in the UK if everything goes to plan. So that's kind of what I'm aiming for. I'm doing this in the background, sort of reinvesting some of the money that I've made over the last 12 months back into the channel to try and get ready for the next steps. Because one of the reasons I've not had any gameplay on the channel in the last 12 months is I literally can't have anybody to my house to play games. Like even my sons, they're 18-year-old now, they're not allowed to come and visit because they're 18, they're adults. You can't have other people who live in other households come into your house. So yeah, it's a bit difficult at the moment. But yeah, I'm getting ready for when it's done. Glenn Griffin says, do you think they're working on a 40k 10th edition now? I would have said yes, mate. However, I think because the last year hasn't really given them a lot of meaningful information from gameplay, they probably don't really know exactly kind of what it's doing. But they do kind of release it. Is it about every 4 years? I think it is something like that. Is it every 4 years? I'm trying to remember. It might even be every 3 years a new edition comes out. So I'm sure they're already working on it, to be fair. Somebody somewhere will be. Disco Dolly says, I work in aerospace, high value items which you don't want hanging around as raw materials or finished product. GW will be the same. Unsold product is money off the bottom line. Exactly. One of the ways, especially when you've got shareholders, one of the way you get your sort of profits up is you get your stock holding down. You do not want money tied up in finished product not selling. It's not so bad having it in raw materials ready to go because it becomes flexible. You can put it into different products. But what you don't want is money tied up in finished product just sitting in the warehouse going nowhere. Some guys say, sometimes I think we have a big extremism culture, not just in religion, politics, but in behaviour. You're either with me or you're against me. You're either right or wrong. I agree, mate. I definitely think at the minute we are being driven, and a lot of it's by media, like social media, kind of media companies. We are driven to either be left or right, kind of have a black or white opinion kind of thing, not in skin color, but just like as in like kind of like agree, disagree. That it's very difficult to have a discussion and have a debate about stuff these days. It's one of the reasons I do these live streams, really, is I try to take a kind of like a mixed opinion and try and look at things from different sides. Because I've always said, like, I don't know everything. I have an opinion, but I don't know everything. And if somebody else has more information that I don't know about, I might change my opinion. If somebody tells me something different, like if somebody came to me and said, that thing you said about there's only like 32 copies on eBay, like I have like facts, I have statistics that said 20,000 scalpers like bought that product, then I would obviously change my opinion of what I've been talking about tonight. So I think debate and discussing stuff is really, really important. And you have to kind of allow people space to kind of having a, like, to share information that I don't know about. But I feel like the world's not like that at the minute. I feel like the world is very much kind of like, sort of just like in opposition to each other. And it's like, I've got my opinion and I'm not changing my mind. And we're never going to agree. We're just going to argue. And it feels like the world's a bit like that at the minute. Craig Jones says, that was a very good comment about people deteriorating mental health. I was definitely suffering from this for a while. The change I made that brought about the most significant improvement. I tell you what, mate, I've been through it as well. I've had some dips, mine, over the last 12 months when I've been thinking, what have I done? Like, this is what I can't believe. Like, I've kind of, this is what I'm doing now for a job. I can't play games. Like, there's no new stuff coming out. I've got nothing to talk about. Like, I've kind of put all my eggs in one basket now with this. What am I doing? And like the news and the dread of like just constant news of like this many people are dying, this many people are dying. You can't leave the house. You can't go on holiday. You can't see your friends. Like, it just grinds you down. And no wonder people are getting like kind of really antsy with each other online. No wonder this kind of topic like can create like animosity with people, because actually people are just like caged animals at the minute, and I think the slightest little thing just triggers people to react to stuff that they probably wouldn't have done. VG saying, awesome, 100%. I'll be visiting to play on my next trip to the UK. You are on, my friend. John saying, hey, I resemble that deteriorating mental health remark. You're not alone, mate. Believe me, you are not alone in that. Steve Bonner says, Mr. Andy Builder, I'm going to be taking some kind of like video footage as I do it and stuff. I'm really fortunate at home. We have a double garage. I've spent a lot of time over the last few weeks and months, like kind of emptying it out, like kind of putting stuff into a shed in the garden and kind of creating space and stuff to do it exactly how I want to do it. It's a slightly different idea from what I've had in the past. In the past, that was going to be like my studio where I did everything. And unfortunately, things like, because the garage is kind of separate from the house, I couldn't go in there on an evening and do like live streaming while my little boy was in bed in the house and my wife was working away. So that kind of backfired on me, and I had to sort of change some things around. Fortunately, because of like kind of what we're doing now, and because this is my full-time job, I can kind of like demand a bit more space now. So the idea is that is the studio for recording gameplay, which will be done kind of like during the day or on weekends and things like that. But this will continue to be like the kind of like the live stream room, and where I record videos and bits and pieces as well. It just means I don't have to have I've got a big 6x4 table here in front of me. It means I can get rid of that 6x4 table, sit at a smaller table when I'm doing live streams, and have a lot more space in here for kind of for other bits and pieces and things. And that gives me a lot of space back, and I'm kind of really tight on space in here. Marcus is saying, several US mental health experts have been saying a lot of people are at breaking point from this isolation, and many are not reaching out for help. I'll be perfectly honest, mate. I don't mind saying I'm kind of a bit like that. I'm not good at reaching out. I'm not good at asking for help. I've not really seen anybody outside of the people that I live with for 12 months. I've not seen anybody really face to face. I must admit, I'm getting to a point now where we're going to start to unlock and we're going to start to ease out, and I'm starting to think, well, like my friendships have gone down the pan. I haven't seen anybody. We've kind of lost touch. So I must admit, like, part of it, I'm a little bit worried about stuff like that as well. And I'm not good at reaching out, but I'm good at telling other people to do it. So yes, please do reach out, folks. Even don't do as I do, do as I say. Craig says, for me, it was deleting Facebook. That was the biggest improvement. My Facebook is pretty much only linked to like hobby stuff, and it's not too bad. But the thing for me was stop watching the kind of the government updates, stop reading the news, Stop listening to the radio. Listen to more music, listen to books, listen to podcasts and that kind of stuff. And I almost had to kind of distance myself from the world, if you like, because it was all just negativity. I almost had to kind of cut myself off for a while to try and just kind of like get myself out of a slump. Chris Warden says, my head is hurting from you having to repetitively give the same answers over and over again. Such is life, my friend, such is life. Al Mullen says, what camera are you using now for the live stream? It's great quality. This one, mate, is a DSLR camera. It is a Canon 250D, and I've got a nice lens as well. I bought a nice lens for it, which gives the nice blurred background thing. So if I kind of focus on there, you can see how all the background gets all blurred out and stuff. And yeah, it's a nice lens, mate, as well. Marcus is saying, that's why your channel is really important, that your positivity is very helpful. I mean, tonight, obviously, I've kind of been talking about something which potentially was controversial. The chat hasn't really kind of gone that way, which I'm really pleased about, because I was never meant to be kind of inciting hatred or anything like that. I was trying to show a different side of the whole scalping thing and why it's maybe not the issue people think it is. But generally, I want to talk about positivity. I want to, if people are being really angry about something, I want to kind of try and break that down and get to the root cause of it, and maybe make them think about it in a different way. I'm generally a positive person, and if I'm getting ground down by things that's kind of going on around us, I'm sure everybody else is as well. And it's hard. But I generally try and bring positivity to the live streams, try and be positive in my videos. I don't really tend to talk about negative stuff in general, because I think it's nice to have a place to kind of go and listen to positive things. It's not an echo chamber. I'm not trying to pretend like everything's awesome while like everything's on fire behind me kind of thing. But I tend not to focus on the negative stuff. I just don't talk about it, and I tend to talk about the stuff that's positive for me, or the things I'm interested in, or the things I'm interested in, and I hope you are too, kind of thing. Like, for example, we've been talking about Curse City for a few weeks and stuff, because I'm really excited for it. But if Curse City wasn't something that I was bothered about, you wouldn't see me talking about it every week going, that Curse City, it's garbage. I don't know why anybody wants it. It's a complete waste of money. It's far too expensive. Like, that gives a completely different vibe to these kind of live streams, if that's what you do. Bobby says, based on the comments I've read tonight, most people don't see this Curse City situation as that big. Seems like a minority on the internet briefly went a bit mad. Normality has been resumed. I got a lot of comments, mate, on things like Twitter and stuff like that, with people making assumptions about what I was going to talk about tonight, saying basically, you're wrong, scalpers are awful, it's disgusting, I missed out because of scalpers and that kind of stuff. There's a lot of hatred out there for it. But what I'm trying to do is put a different point across. So, yeah. Hopefully it just kind of calms people a little bit. VG says, must admit, it weirds me out the UK is still locked down, considering I played a concert to 5,000 people on Thursday. Yeah, to be fair, this is the first time in a long time that it feels like we're starting to kind of see a path out. Is it fast enough? Probably not, but then I've had COVID, so I'm full of the antibodies. I'm quite happy to get out there now, so it's easy for me to kind of be a bit more blasé about it. I haven't had my vaccination yet because I'm not in the right age group yet, but there is a big chunk of the country have had vaccinations now. I just hope that everything goes to plan. By June, we should be removing kind of social restrictions in the UK. It means things like the UK Games Expo goes ahead properly at the end of July. I can start to visit companies again. I've already been chatting to the guys at Mantic about getting down to Mantic's headquarters once they reopen again as well. So I'm kind of making plans for the future. But it has been 12 months now since we first locked down. And we've had very, very brief kind of sort of periods of time when we could get out of the house, but that's been about it. I think I've literally played, like outside of playing against my wife, I've had one game of Warcry in the last 12 months against my brother-in-law, like last June, July, August time, and that is literally the only gaming that I've done, basically. That's the only person I've been able to play against. Jason, there's a lot of intolerance at the minute. People need to chill a bit and realise not everyone has to think the same. Yeah. Everyone can have an opinion. The Harrower says, people can change opinions. Craziness. What a world we live in. Bodyguard Elias says the thing about GW stock is that it gains value. For example, Kill Team 1 new will get at least 160 on eBay now. So look at GW stock more like a wine cellar than dead money. It's the problem is, mate, is if you're GW and it's sitting in your warehouse, you have paid somebody to make that. You've paid for the raw materials. You've paid for all of the packaging, and now you're paying to warehouse it. And the longer it sits in the warehouse, the more it's costing you, so the less it's worth to you. The GW doesn't appreciate in value. They're not going to suddenly dump like 20,000 copies onto eBay. It's a bit different if it's like if you're like somebody that's bought 2 copies kind of thing. Dead Hand says, I blame Bill Gates. Isn't that the cool thing to do these days? Peter says, I never see an argument as a fight, but everyone has a right and an opinion. Remember, opinions sometimes change. Being open to changing your opinion is one of the best things you can do these days. Being open to think the person I'm speaking to might know more than I do. And if they do, be willing to kind of listen and sort of reevaluate your opinion. If more people could do that these days, I think the world would be a better place. Eddie Hart says, I'm lucky you've never been depressed before until I was hospitalised for 2 weeks with COVID and couldn't see my wife or kids. I was scared and thought I could die alone. I tell you what, mate, that would be enough to kind of send anybody over the edge, mate. Glenn saying, third lockdown here now. I took nearly a month off from the hobby during February. It's important to look after your mental health. Going for a daily walk really helps. I tell you what's drove me insane recently, mate. I tested positive for COVID and I had to lock down for 10 days, but like really locked down, like literally not leave the house. Couldn't have anybody kind of like sort of even really coming and dropping things off, really. So, and that kind of got to me, that feeling of just being locked in the house for 10 days. Couldn't go out for a walk, couldn't go for a run, couldn't go and get a cup of coffee. Like that's been tough. That's been tough. I'm just going to scoop through some of these things. Harrower says the whole scalping situation really does stink. Have you tried buying graphics card or PS5? It's pretty awful. Yeah, and I kind of touched on that before, mate. The other side of it is PS5s and graphics cards are also going to be reproduced. I mean, PS5 is a really good example because people are paying well over the odds for a PS5. But you know what? There's absolutely bugger all worth playing on PS5 at the minute. Most of those games are not PS5 exclusives. They're upgraded graphics for PS4 games. So, like, people paying over the odds at the minute are just bored. They've just got spare money and nothing better to do with themselves at the minute. I haven't bought a PS5. I've got no intention of, like, paying scalping prices. I might pick one up when they're more widely available, but it's madness to think that people are paying over the odds for a games machine that really has nothing new worth playing on it. Pusey said 5,000 people sounds risky. Not when you're in Australia, mate, and nobody has COVID. It's not risky. It's a completely different situation. It's funny how we kind of reassess things now. The idea of being out in like thousands of people, like I'm looking forward to it because when I get to that point, the risks are minuscule. They're tiny. If we're at a point where thousands and thousands of people can meet again, like there's nothing to worry about. Like that's the thing. I'll skip ahead a little bit here. Frantic said it's weird hearing complaints for a product that'll be around for a while. What does it matter if you get it in a month or two? I got Blackstone Focus the second year after release. Yeah, don't disagree, mate. Tony saying record number of dislikes, and that's only 3. It will go up over the coming days and months, mate, no doubt. Chris Simon said, I'm more concerned that GW will stop supporting Curse City after just one expansion. I just want at least 2 expansions. This is something else I want to probably talk about in the future. When people say, like they're not going to support it. At the end of the day, it's a board game, right? And actually, if they never released an expansion at all, you have paid for the contents that come in that box. Like if you think about board games, like board games don't necessarily need to get like supported. If you think of, if I just take like, what can I take as an example? Let's say Gloomhaven as an example. Gloomhaven didn't get like loads of expansions. It's just a game in a box. Like, but I think when people who come from a miniature gaming side of things expect things to be supported forever with constant new stuff to buy. But board games don't need to. Like, you play the game and you experience the game and you enjoy it. You can go back and play it again. So I think it's more like expectations from where you've come from, I think, really. Like, I haven't even got the game yet. I'm not really worried about expansions at this point in time. I haven't even played it. Richard Parker says, got to run up early in the morning for a 15-mile bike ride. Catch you in the rerun, dude. Great stream, thanks. Thank you very much, mate. Paul McElroy says, night all as well. Good chat. Thank you very much. The biggest boss says, here, dude, first time on the stream. Welcome, my friend. Says, late to the game, but the new Witch Hunters makes me want Curse City even more. Those new Witch Hunters are nice, aren't they? I must admit. John Ashley said, I get freaked out chatting with people from Australia and New Zealand. Voices from the future. I do call one of my Patreons Future Boy, because he's always 12 hours ahead or 11 hours ahead. Spider Lord says, right, got a bail, got a job now, and I have to be up at 5. Good stream, guys. Take care, mate. We'll speak soon. Tony says, I'm struggling to pass on a copy of Blackstone Fortress expansion. I can't give it away as people think I should charge big money for it. I don't feel okay with that, so it's sat untouched. I think the thing you have to kind of consider, mate, is if you gave it to somebody, the chances are they'll sell it on for a profit. Like, so you might not be scalping, but somebody else is, kind of thing. So something is worth what people are willing to pay for it when it comes to stuff like that. You're not scalping. You didn't buy something with the idea of making a profit from it. It just so happens it's gone up in value since you bought it. Marcus says, me and my friends try to live by the rule of I might not like or agree with your opinion or have to be nice about disagreeing with you, but I will respect it as long as you're not a jerk. There's definitely an element of that, mate. Like, give people kind of... Some people are idiots and they have idiotic opinions, and those people don't always deserve to be heard. However, when I'm saying about listening to people, I'm generally talking about other people who have who have a different opinion, but they might have a different opinion for a different reason to what you think. Fiji says, I'm in the future. Are you guys living in the past? We're definitely living in the past, mate. Don't worry about that. Where are we at? Let's see. Steve Bonner said, I've just read that one before. Gary Powell says, I managed to grab a copy, went to my PC and had an email from GW, messed up putting in details twice, still managed to buy it. Not so sure it was that hard to get. I think it's, like, as I said before, mate, during the stream, it's there are people that missed out, but I think they're really quick to blame scalpers and blame GW not making enough and blame everything else, rather than actually looking at themselves and saying, do you know what? I wasn't ready when it went live. Right, folks. I think I'll start to wrap that one up now. We're at 11 o'clock now, which is that time seems to have flown by. So, thank you very much, every single one of you that's been in the chat tonight. It's been a good, lively one. I'm glad you kind of took it in the sort of in the tone it was intended. I might have been a little bit kind of like forceful at times, saying, you know, people need to take a look at themselves, but I stand by that. So, Christian sharing the link for the Patreon there. Thank you very much. As I said before, this is my full-time job. I don't kind of advertise. I don't do paid kind of advertising from companies. I do it all basically through through donations on the, like you can see on here on the live stream, through people joining my Patreon as well. We've got a private Discord where you can kind of hang out and chat and stuff. There's different tiers where you get like mugs and t-shirts and things as well. I also sell merchandise as well, affiliate links, that type of stuff. So I try to kind of keep myself independent, so that basically, like, I'm not in kind of GW's pocket saying, oh, this is a really good game because they sent it to me early, kind of thing. I try to stay away from that kind of stuff. So I give you the honest opinions, and I give you the personal opinions as well. So yes, if you want to support, I really would appreciate that. I will see you all on Wednesday for the hobby hangout painting stream. I will have some painting. I haven't painted in like 2 or 3 weeks, so I'm looking forward to get the brushes out. But I'll see you on Wednesday in the hobby hangout. I'll see most of you folks in the Patreon chat as well, probably later on tonight and tomorrow as well. So take care, folks, and I'll see you all soon. Thanks for watching my video. I hope that you really enjoyed it. And if you did, why not consider clicking on the suggested video below to see more of the work that I've done. If you'd like to support the long-term sustainability of this channel, why not consider checking out my Patreon, where you can pledge and support from as little as $2 a month, and there is lots of different tiers and bonuses which will give you access to a private Discord server. It will give you free t-shirts, free mugs, a podcast every month, and a number of other things, including getting your name at the end of every video, like these awesome folks who already support me now.